Hi everyone, this is Talkback, and we have a really special show today. You know, music is healing, art is healing, and we have a wonderful organization in our community that helps people heal through their artistic activities. It's called Artreach. We have a group of them here today, including the director and three wonderful musicians who are part of the Artreach family. And we're going to talk to them, and then they're going to perform for us, so it's going to be terrific. So let me first introduce Rebecca Atkins. Hi, Becca. Hi, you're the director, right?
Yes.
Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Artreach? Give us an introduction to what Artreach does.
Okay, sure. So Artreach is a nonprofit organization in Norwich, and we're an arts organization that provides performing opportunities and practice opportunities in the arts and creative arts classes in a number of different topics to people who have experienced psychiatric disorders and who are, have a level of recovery under their belt and who want to use the arts to enhance the quality of their lives and build community together and just to learn and practice something that feels good in the world.
And what kind of programs do you do with the group?
It varies over the years, but our signature program is the Second Step Players Theater Troupe, which has actors and production personnel with lived experience of mental health issues who write sketch comedy and stand-up comedy about what it's like to have a mental illness, about things that are happening in the mental health system. It's really social justice theater about mental health to try to make the system better and make the country better and reduce stigma and negative stereotyping.
And do you have a home base? Is there a building where people come? Do they come often or regularly? Different sessions, different times?
Different sessions, different times. So we have an office space in Norwich at the Uncas on Thames campus, and our program members only come in when we have either a rehearsal scheduled or a class scheduled that's an in-person class. We've been doing visual arts classes really consistently in person for quite some time now after the pandemic, as well as music rehearsals for our coffee house production, which is a different type of music than we did today. Program members come in and sing a song with a band. So we have volunteer bands that come in, and that's a big in-person thing. And then we've been doing our jazz group every Friday for a couple of hours.
That's wonderful. So how do people find out about it? So I'm a person I need some therapy, I need some work. How do I know about this center that's going to give me a release through my art to help my healing process? How do I find out?
You probably find out from the person you're getting therapy from,
Okay.
or from someone else who's in a group. So what we ask of people is that they're getting their actual mental health services like case management or therapy in the community from a local mental health agency or a private therapist. And what they're doing with us is just arts. So because they're getting therapy and those issues taken care of elsewhere, they come to us just as people. And we just, as artists, as actors, as musicians, and we just get together and do the art. So we know what's happening. We make space for the fact that people may be symptomatic on a day or feeling really low or anxious, and but we really just come together to make our art. So it's a little bit different.
Yeah, someone asked me the question, what kind of staff is there? Are the staff somehow trained in some way to be able to deal with some of the people who might have an off day or some issues involving their therapy?
Well, I'm a licensed professional counselor, but nobody who comes to Artreach is my client. But we are very conscious not to cross that line. So we're not a clinical program. We're an arts place. But I do keep an eye on things. If somebody seems to be having trouble, I'll mention it to them. I'll ask them who their support person is and try to point them in the right direction.
So what's the experiential conclusion? What's the success story? Give us some idea. I come to that program. I'm recommended by my therapist. And how does it help me in my practice? What have you seen in people as they go through this program?
I'll give you a dramatic example. So, because this one is hard to miss. There was someone several years ago we used to do these big theater shows at the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center. And It was a very quiet woman who used to come in and act with us, and she wanted small roles, small speaking roles. But we really enjoyed working with her, and unbeknownst to us, she had been hospitalized many times in a state of depression that they call catatonic depression, where she didn't speak at all. And one year at our O'Neill show, a group of nurses came from a local hospital, came to visit me after the show, and were just blown away because they mentioned that they didn't know that this woman could speak. And they had come to this show and seen her on stage, not only speaking lines, but laughing with people. And so she got to experience something different. That there's a magic that happens when you're doing something different, because people can get shoved into a pod if they happen to be on disability and have mental health issues. But that is a global condition. I mean, 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5, depending on whose study you're looking at, experiences a mental health issue. So there's not a big separation. It's like all of us. Look, look how many of us are.
Right.
So
when she has that transformation,
yeah,
that everybody sees, does that hold over? Does that stay into the regular other areas of her life? You know what I mean?
I happen to know that that person works regularly at a local mental health agency.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So
Right.
I mean, I'm certainly not claiming credit for her wellness, but I'm saying that people can look really different in different situations. And when
Right.
she was in the hospital, really working on her healing, she never spoke, but in a supportive place that had structure and something fun to do, and also colleagues that understood what it's like to be super quiet.
Right.
That kind of support allows for a different experience to happen in that moment.
Wonderful.
And everybody has those different moments through their
So
lives.
you're here today, though. Every Friday, this group plays jazz together, and sometimes you do performances outside of your space. And we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to play a few pieces for us.
Cool.
So let's start with Dick Pape. Hi, Dick. Are you the head of this jazz group? What's your...
I'm the music director for Artreach.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm the head of it. I'm part of it.
Okay.
How long have we been doing this? Because I always say, it's been like 8 or 9 years.
Chris
and
says-
No,
I
it's
think
closer
like
to 12. It's
Yeah.
hard to believe.
Since
Wow.
since 2010.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
These 4 of you
Yeah.
have been together. That's wonderful.
Yeah, every Friday, or at least every Friday that we can. And it kind of started because Chris and I were getting together. I think you were part of one of the coffee houses, and we would get together on the side to play jazz, and realizing that that was the only time Chris got to play it with people. So we morphed into what we have now for the last almost 13 years. So we all get to play and practice playing jazz, which is hard.
Because that requires improvisation sometimes,
Improvisation and a certain amount of knowledge, music theory knowledge, which you add on to the more you play.
Facility.
Well, it facilitates learning more about the music. It can be very complex. It doesn't have to be, but it does require a certain amount of knowledge of music theory so that you can navigate your way through some of these songs. When we play All the Things You Are, I think was what we started with, which has a whole bunch of chords.
Right.
And everything kind of pieces together like building blocks or Lincoln logs or
Right.
Legos. or
Yeah.
something.
Well, we're going to listen to each one, and then we'll talk a little bit about it after we listen to each one. So I want to introduce the others, and after we listen to a piece, we're also going to talk about your instruments, because you're each holding on to the guitars that you play, the bass or whatever. We'll talk a little about that. So let me turn to Chris Harwell. How did you get into Artreach?
Well, I am actually diagnosed with schizophrenia, and I've been part of the program going back to over 15 years ago, and luckily we started to do something. I started working with Artreach after we attempted to work together and make the jazz group, and it's been very helpful. it's kind of it helps a lot with my stress, and it's very good with just taking care of yourself better, and mental gives me a lot of mental calmness.
Wonderful. And how much do you enjoy doing it every Friday?
I love it every week. We do something very nice. It's very it's therapeutic. And
you've established relationships with these other people in your group, right? Fabulous. Okay, we'll talk to you more after we hear the first song. And now we have Alan Winslow.
Hi.
Hi, Alan. How did you get involved in Artreach?
I was friends with the original founders. We were in a band,
Oh.
and then S.J. Williams and Ronna Kyle, and I just kind of came in through them. I was with in some of the original first shows at the Eugene O'Neill, and then I've been in and out of this over the years.
And how long have you been in this
I've been doing this since about 2010 or 11, somewhere around there. And I met Becca maybe 5 years before that, and then she invited me into this. And anyways, it's a lot of fun.
So how much do you
some neat
enjoy?
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, music has always been great for me. It's a great escape. It brings me someplace else. You know, like people will talk about problems. You know, you have your time with your music and you forget everything else. It's very absorbing.
And
It's a
so
lot of
how
fun.
satisfying is it to be helping
Oh,
people?
it's been, it's a treasure to me. You know, and I've been playing for years on and off, and I write music too, but I never thought I would be playing jazz. I just tried this and I figured, well, I'll try it. Well, here I am, 12 years later.
Has
so.
this group ever played any of your compositions?
Actually, we have
Uh-huh.
at some point. It isn't really jazz, but I'll say that jazz is definitely influencing my writing now and my music.
Great.
There's things creeping in.
All right, we'll talk a
So.
little more about that. And just before we present the very first number, Becca, as Alan mentioned, when was Artreach first established?
First started in 1985.
Okay.
It's been going on for a long time. I've been there since '93.
And about how many people are between staff and do you call them clients, the people that come?
Program members.
Members.
But you know what? Honestly, we do, but that's just for shorthand when we're talking about it. We really just all come as people.
Okay.
So that we don't differentiate a lot once we're there. I would say, I don't know, we have maybe 25 volunteers total, if you're counting volunteer musicians and people who come in. And right now there may be 40 active program members. We've had up to 80 active program members, but we also used to have a staff of 10. And we were doing some different things at the time.
And how did you negotiate the COVID period? Did you do things on Zoom mostly, or what happened with that?
I could talk about that for a long time. That's a great topic. Do you want to do a song before we talk about that or not?
Sure, let's do the first song and
Okay.
then we'll come back and talk to everybody.
Cool, 'cause I have a
again.
lot to
So
say.
the first song is All the Things You Are
Yes.
by Jerome Kern. Wonderful song. Okay, here we go. Okay, we're back. That was fantastic. The harmony was terrific. I loved
Thank you,
it.
Sheila.
I love it. So let's, we'll get to you after, Becca, but let's
Okay.
start again with Dick, because you did so much nice harmony and improvisation. Tell us about that song, why you picked it and what you like about it and how it showcases your talents, I guess.
It's what's known as a jazz standard. All the songs we played today are jazz standards from a book called The Real Book. Somebody was being humorous instead of calling it a
Well,
fake
I know
book.
fake book, yeah.
Yeah. So we pick from that. Our regular system on Fridays is pick a song, and sometimes it's like spin the wheel and there you go. All the Things You Are is how to put this? Well, as I said earlier, there's a lot of chords going on. They all relate to each other, but it's sort of like a small education when you're for the instrumentalist to navigate these chords that do all have something to do with each other, but sometimes to the uninitiated, it sounds like my dad loved this word, schnuttering. You know, so like, what is that noise? But as you learn more as a listener and as a player, you can enjoy it more. And something like All the Things You Are, with the different chord changes going on in it, it's challenging to the player. So the more you do it, the more you can express yourself with the chords.
Tell us about your guitar. When did you get it? What is it? Explain it.
It's a Friedman Vintage T. Vintage because it looks like it's been dragged through the parking lot. It's what they call a relic guitar. It's, I think, about 1.5 years old. It looks like it's 50 years old, but it's only 1.5 years old. And I'm not a big fan of relic guitars. I have another guitar that does look like it's been dragged through the parking lot, but I've been playing it for 45 years. So paint's falling off and it looks horrendous. This guitar found me. I was not looking for it. It found me, and that's.
And when you're doing your playing together, are you the kind of the lead?
To a certain extent, yeah. Like you may hear on the performances that we did today. I'm calling okay, coda, okay, tag it, something like that. So from that standpoint, yeah, I guess I'm.
I mean, do you need when you're four? Do you need someone to kind of take the lead, or is that?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Not all the time,
Yeah.
but sometimes, yeah.
Okay. All right. Great. Let's talk to you, Chris. What kind of guitar do you have?
It's a Fender guitar. It's an American Fender Strat, and made in America. This must be. I think I got this this guitar is over 20 years old. Goes back to when I started playing music in high school, and this was a Christmas gift.
Now you did a lot of the melody line with your guitar. I've been listening. It was beautiful, right? Yeah, I noticed that.
That's the. I've been teaching myself to read along with the help of lots of teachers, many teachers, and it's like a hobby. It's something that keeps you going, something persisting, and as a team, I think we always help each other. Someone will play the backing chords, what style of music it calls for.
But your sound was beautiful coming from your guitar. It really was. What do you like about that song? Anything special about that?
All Things You Are?
Yeah.
Well, All Things You Are is pretty cool. I think it goes back, as far as improvisation, there's a really cool recording of it with Charlie Parker called Bird of Paradise. They call it like the bebop school of jazz. He's considered one of the greatest, a genius of the 20th century music, and I think reading helps to dig into that world of music there, and to be able to communicate with other musicians and examples and teaching and learning and creating.
Great. Okay, great. Alan, let's look at you. What kind of guitar are you?
This is a Gibson SG. I've got it maybe 4 or 5 years ago probably. And this was originally what I was going to buy about 60 years ago. Almost 60 years ago. I couldn't afford it. And anyways, I do have a couple of guitars that are nearly that old, that old that I've held on to. So it's a nice guitar.
Okay.
I've got
So you
couple.
said you're composing your own stuff and you're not always into the jazz that this group is into.
Yeah.
What do you listen to when you have time to listen?
I mostly listen to myself,
Oh.
and that's pretty scary
I
thought.
was going to ask
Yeah.
each of you when you get a chance to tell me who your favorite musical artists.
I started like way back and influenced by the Beatles, but strangely now, like I don't listen to it. I'm overdosed on it, but I've learned a lot listening to Beatle music. But there's so many things I've heard along the way, and almost anybody I hear play or I see play, I usually will pick something up from watching them.
What did you
They'll
learn
have-
about doing this song?
I think I'm still learning it.
Okay.
What
What harmony parts did you play? What did
I
you
was
do?
just playing chords,
Chords.
and I was inventing.
Right.
If you listen real close, you'll probably hear some invented chords. I come up with some new ones all the time.
Well, to
So,
my ear and to the
yeah.
audience's ear,
Yeah.
they probably won't pick that up,
It's
right?
fun.
I didn't. It was
Yeah,
great.
That's
All right.
that's a good thing about music. You know, it passes. You hear it and it passes. But like a photograph or something painted, you see it, and that's the way
Okay,
it
well,
is.
we recorded you. We recorded you, so we're going to
Uh-oh.
listen again.
Uh-oh.
Check it out. Okay. All right, and Becca, tell us about your beautiful instrument.
Okay, this is a birdsong bass. It was custom built for me by a guy named Scott Beckwith in Wimberley, Texas. And he is 5'4", which is about my height. I had been playing a Fender jazz bass, which is several inches longer, and I kept getting frozen shoulder from trying to play out there. So this one hangs really nice on me. I can reach it without a big stretch. And Scott also is a really interesting man. When I reached out to him, his personal story is unique. He had some mental health issues too, so he really related to Artreach and what we do. And we talked a lot talked about what was going to go into the bass, but also talked about him. And he had been homeless. He had been living in a van, and he started to apprentice with a man who taught him to work with wood, and then who taught him to build basses that make beautiful sound. And then he started custom building ones, a size that was good for himself and his wife, who's also a bass player. The first bass he built was for a folk singer named Eliza Gilkison, who I like a lot. But this particular bass, for me, he and I talked about the qualities of the wood a lot, and I got to pick the kinds of wood that went into it. We changed course because I saw him post a picture of a bass on Facebook, and I called him up and said, "Scott, that looks like wormy chestnut." And he said, "That is wormy chestnut." And there's no more wormy chestnut. All the trees were killed in a blight in like the 1940s or something. But the top of this guitar is wormy chestnut. And I'm attached to that because my uncle used to be a woodworker and had a lot of wormy chestnut from downed trees in North Carolina. And so he made each of us family members picture frames and blanket chests and items out of this kind of wood. So I'm attached to it. So he said, "Let's change and let's make your top wormy chestnut." This piece came from a barn in South Carolina.
Wow.
And so I liked that. And I happen to know that Scott, in between the front and the back of the body of this, he built some messages in, and it says "Music is love" in between these two pieces
Wow.
of pressed wood right here. I don't know what else he built in there, but whatever it is, I trust it, and I love my guitar.
That's great. Lovely story. All right, we're going to go to the next song. What's the next piece you're going to play, Dick?
Autumn Leaves.
Okay. I heard Nat King Cole sing that 100 years ago, right?
Yep.
Do you remember that
Oh,
recording
yeah.
of it? Okay. Let's hear Autumn Leaves by the Jazz Band. By the way, what do you call yourselves? Is there a title?
The Artreach Jazz Band.
Outreach Jazz Band. Okay.
Artreach, yeah.
Next. All right, we're back, and wow, that was another beautiful rendition
Thank you.
of Autumn Leaves.
you.
And Dick, what makes you guys want to play that one?
Again, it's another standard from the real book.
Common pick.
It's a common pick. Everyone plays it, which is not to demean the song. It's a great song because, like a lot of jazz songs, it doesn't have to be complex for you to learn something from it. But bottom line is, it's a fun song to play.
Okay.
You can stretch out if you want. You can just okay, I'll play once and that's it. Next guy. It's a real fun song. You can hear many if you go on YouTube and just Autumn Leaves. You'll get
piano recordings of Autumn Leaves, right?
everything: piano, saxophone, guitar. My guitar teacher loves to use the song as a teaching tool because it has so many facets to it. But bottom line, it's just a fun song to play.
So how many hours a day or a week do you practice your guitar?
I practice every day, depending on what's going on. I try to get in about 15 minutes, half an hour in the morning, and hopefully in the evening too. Some days I'll practice 4 hours. Some days maybe just an hour.
And your sessions on Friday are how long?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah. In practice can be anything from just rehearsing a song to working on technique or working on reading.
Now, like Alan, do you ever compose anything? Have you ever done anything like that?
I do, but I don't write a lot.
Okay.
I have several jazz flavored songs that I've written that I kind of like. Composers are probably their worst critics. I don't know, Alan can. Are you your worst critic?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm backed
Yeah.
up on that one. Yeah, I don't. But yeah, to answer your question, I
So
really
when
don't write a
people
lot.
say that was great, you don't believe them? Is that what happens?
No, I try to take it in as best as I can. I have, like I say, I have several tunes that I've written as a result of a songwriting group that Becca and I are part of, and that's more of a well, one facet of it is collaboration with other artists, and then before COVID, we used to get together in Virginia at a 4-H camp and just write songs and present them morning and evening. And a few things came out of that I kind of like.
And who do you listen to? Who are your favorite artists?
Well, like Alan, I got introduced to music through the Beatles and Johnny Mathis
Wow.
and Errol Garner. Not by choice, but it's what my sister was playing at the time.
The great pianist, we should.
Yes, the
Garner.
great pianist,
Fabulous.
Errol Garner. My parents played a lot of big band music when I was a kid, and then I listened to everything through the years. But after a while, you just like, okay, I listened to that, and now I'm on to something else. Now I listen to a real lot of jazz, largely because I'm learning, and you learn not only by playing, but you learn also by listening. To the various aspects of
Do you
music.
enjoy the improvisation
Oh,
work
yeah.
that you do? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm very fortunate that during COVID I was able to study with a guitarist down in New York, and I did go to New York, and then COVID hit, and then we did it on Zoom after
Yeah.
that. And that wonderful guitarist by the name of Mike Stern, a great teacher. Unfortunately, COVID is over, and he's back on the road, so I haven't been able to take any lessons for a while.
COVID's not over, but that's another
So
story.
he's off. I think he's
Yeah.
in Australia right
Yeah.
now playing.
Okay,
but that was a
great.
godsend.
All right. Chris, did we ask you who you like to listen to?
I do love Charlie Parker. I do like lots of the jazz players, the famous jazz players, Coltrane. I think it goes without saying, Coltrane, Miles, Parker, and guitarists. I spent some time in Hartford, and there's a lot of when I was there was a lot of playing in guitar in the style of Wes Montgomery, I guess. I got to see a really, one of my favorite things I ever saw when I was playing over there. I got to see Jim Hall do a master class, and he was in his, I think, his 80s when I got to see him present the master class there.
Okay. And about how much time do you spend practicing?
I don't know, really. I do like to sit in front of the music stand for a while, for maybe a couple hours, but sometimes I have to do some other chores and I don't get to play as much. But I get a couple hours at least, hopefully a couple hours a day.
Okay. All right. Alan, what about this song? How did you adapt to it? Did you get this one right?
I hope I will when we play it.
Sounded good.
I would just like comment on one of the things we do. Dick had mentioned it, but you know, we get together on Fridays. We have our fake book, or our real book as they call it, and we'll just take turns picking songs out. So we don't really, a lot of these songs we have played a number of times, but we don't have a format that this is what we're working on. We just open the book. And there have been times, and I'll compliment Chris, and Chris can sight read really well. I'll take the book and go like this and go, okay, it's my turn. Oh, let's do this song. And we'll be like, have you ever played that before, Chris? And Chris like, I don't think so. And then, but he'll sight read it and
Yeah.
we'll play it. And
Okay.
so.
So Becca, how much time do you devote to practicing?
They're gonna laugh at me. So I'm in an entirely different boat than these guys. I mean, I play bass. I don't think of myself as a musician. And I don't practice every day. I practice when I have something to work on, and I go in on Fridays and play with them. So for me, this has been about a different thing. One of the first things that I got out of this group was being able to just look at the, the kind of chord sheet that they have in the real book, the fake book, to be able to just read the chords and figure out where to go on my bass between the chords at the speed of the song. So among the diagnoses that I have, one of them is a visual perceptual form of dyslexia. So for me, to look at a page, the notes look like they don't stay on the page. They float above the page. So being able to read something as rapidly as it's moving took a lot of literally muscular eyeball practice. So that's one of the things that I get out of this, because then when we play pop songs for our coffee house, I can learn faster. So if I'm going to learn a song, I'm probably going to go to YouTube and grab a YouTube video tutorial and learn that way. But I have learned things from these guys from playing in the jazz group too, and now I can just kind of read top to bottom off of a sheet and get by pretty well.
Yeah.
This is not the kind of music that I listen to, when I'm listening to music.
What do you listen to?
Things that make two categories: things that make me feel stuff and things that make me move. So if I'm going to listen to something that's going to make me move, it's going to be something like Prince or Red Hot Chili Peppers. And if I'm going to listen to something that makes me feel something, it's the singer-songwriter genre. I love Jonathan Brooks. She's my very favorite singer-songwriter. And I actually got to do stuff on Zoom with her classes during the pandemic, which was very great. So I love her. I love Brandi Carlile and Casey Musgraves, and just the singer-songwriter type genre.
Okay, but you enjoy these songs too?
Oh
the
yeah,
jazz
I
songs.
do. And I really, music for me is about connecting with people. It's as much as it is about music. So for me, it's not what I see on a page. It's what I hear and
Right.
what I feel.
Okay.
And
All
that
right,
helps a lot.
Dick, what's the next song we're going to play?
Black Orpheus.
Okay,
It's a Latin piece,
okay.
bossa nova.
The
I
bossa
picked
nova.
that one because that one's a move song. It's a bossa
It's a
song,
beautiful
so I like
song.
that. Yeah. I like
Okay,
the groove.
let's hear it from Black Orpheus.
And this is going to feature not me, not Chris, Alan.
Alan, awesome.
Maybe.
Not too fast.
That's
okay?
better.
You and
All right, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
And I think it was from a film many years ago.
Yep.
Black
Black Orpheus from 1956. It's a standout year for me because I was born
Right,
then.
but you can watch all those films now.
Oh, yeah.
It's
But the music in it was fabulous, and this was one of the featured songs in the movie.
right.
Um,
Great. So you all spoke before about practicing and playing together. What's the difference, or is there, when you're doing just your Friday set with the four of you, or when you're in front of an audience? Is there a different kind of energy? Is it one thing different, better?
It's a different type of energy. And I'm thinking of a particular gig that we did 5 or 6 years ago, which probably means it was like 10 years ago, at a senior housing place. And I was worried, like, oh my God, they're going to be bored. They're not going to. They knew every song we played. They had a fabulous time. So I'm always a little nervous about audiences, and I sometimes don't realize that they're all good listeners too, and they know what they're listening to.
But if you never had to perform in front of an audience and you just could meet every Friday and play, would that be good too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Would for me. I like to practice. I don't particularly like to perform. I really like to work on things
Okay.
more than I like to be in
All
front
right.
of an
Chris, what
audience.
about you?
I think it's nice that every Friday, it always gives us like a brush up on how we've been working, and then we kind of really work. We a lot of us, these players are no slouches. They don't hold back, and they tell you if you should work a little harder, give you a little more incentive to play, or incentive for your musical pursuit. It's very nice and relaxing too. At the same, it helps to
And
relax.
how do you feel when you're in front of the audience?
Hopefully calm.
Good. So how often do you go out and do something like this or perform at a place where you've got an audience?
So with this group, not that often, but one of our standard gigs is if Artreach has an art show opening. So we have a visual arts program that's very active, and during the pandemic, I think we consistently had art hanging somewhere in the community. So either at a local library or a bank or at Groton New London Airport, but at Reliance Health Gallery downtown in Norwich. When we have an art show hanging, we try to do an opening, and the jazz group comes and plays for
Great.
the opening.
So Alan, how'd you do with this song? You like it?
Black Orpheus,
Yeah.
Actually, that was the song I chose to solo on. And
What moves you about that song?
that I'll choose to solo.
Yeah. What moves you about that song?
I just like it. I like there's a little bounce to it,
Yeah.
and it's in minor. I like playing in minor. I
Yeah.
tend to write probably 80% of my music is in minor nowadays. Anyways, if a song's in minor, it can't go wrong.
Okay. All right, Alan, the last song is what? How
High the Moon.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
How High the Moon.
right.
Les Paul and Mary Ford. Although we're not doing their version, but they're probably most
Now,
noted
she
for the
sang
song.
it, and
Yep.
Les Ford was the guitarist.
Yep. Yep.
And there was something kind of revolutionary about him. What did he do that made him a
the
pioneer in the
He's
world?
the father of multi-track recording.
Is he?
And certain effects too. Up till then, if you had 5 musicians, you had one microphone in the middle of everything, and that's what you got. But he figured out how to layer recordings. So you would hear Les Paul on a recording, and are there 3 or 4 of him? Because he just would
Right.
play parts over what he had previously done, and he was able to do that live, from what I hear, with a device that he put on his guitar, on his Les Paul guitar, because they said, "What do we call this?" He said, "Well, call it a Les Paul." So he had a device called the Les Pulverizer, which would record what he played and play it back, and he'd play over the top of that. So you could pretty much get live what you got on the recordings with Les Paul.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's hear How High the Moon. Go ahead.
Chris, you on?
Whose version of the hundreds of versions of How
The-
High the Moon? will
How
you
High the
do?
Moon, probably the most notable of Les Paul and Mary Ford. Les Paul tore it up on that. What people don't realize is that the harmony guitar parts on that recording was Mary Ford. And wonderful singer, excellent singer, but no one really realized how great a guitarist she was. Everything that Les could do, Mary could do.
And didn't they record these things one track on top of it?
Track on top of track. Les Paul was
25?
the father of modern recording, multi-track recording, yeah.
That's pretty cool. I liked hearing how that worked.
And he had a very unique sound too, because he would record some stuff at half speed and then put it up to regular speed, so it sounded kind of like mosquitoes.
Pitch
Wow.
shifting.
No.
No
Well,
pitch
sort of, yeah, but not really.
Top
Okay.
to bottom on this one?
Top to bottom.
Okay.
Top to bottom, 3 times. Okay. There we go. Okay. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1.
that was lovely also. That was terrific.
Thank you.
What about doing solos just without the rest of the group? Do you ever do those, Dick?
No.
No. What about no?
It's a solo guitar is a really difficult art form.
It is.
He's good at it.
Is he good, Chris? Were you ever highlighted for doing solo?
It's like a kind of like just as it's like a guitar skill. People have like internalizing sounds, internalizing chords, progressions, jazz writing. They call it almost like a writing tool, using certain chords in songwriting when it comes to jazz songwriting.
Now, is it your guitar that's most adapted sound-wise to carry the melody line? Is that?
No, I think
everybody could do that.
Everyone's even basses.
I was going to ask, have you done the melody line with your bass guitar?
I haven't. I probably should try it sometime, huh?
Yeah.
I usually don't. The most melodic bass lines that I've worked on lately have been Beatles. Our last music coffee house, which is another part of our music program at Artreach, we did a whole evening of Beatles songs, and Paul McCartney played what amounted to lead guitar lines on the bass for some songs, and those were really fun for me to learn. So I think I would like to maybe do more of that. Maybe y'all should give me a solo time, a solo turn during the jazz group.
All right.
Okay.
So
I'll give it a shot.
A few moments ago, you postponed mentioning about how Artreach handled the COVID period. Want to just talk about that for a little bit? Sure.
I'm really, really proud of how we handled it. We took, everybody went home, and it was pretty dramatic at the time. Everything shut down. We got together as a staff, and I said, take a couple of days and think about something you might be able to teach online, some group you might want to run online, and something that would feed your own soul, because I was concerned about both us as a team and staying stable to work with our program members as well. And we knew also that our program members, a lot of people didn't have computers, had never used the internet, and so we were able to get a donation of laptops to distribute to members who didn't have one, and then things changed during the pandemic where people were able to get free Wi-Fi. So we helped people get online and developed, a little repertoire of classes that we had, from writing groups to we had a poetry group to book clubs on different topics. Learned how to create theater online, which is more like movie making than live theater. And we've been doing live theater, so creating stuff for Zoom and StreamYard was a challenge, but we did it, and it was fun. We did poetry readings through StreamYard. I think we did music. Did we do music? We did at least one jazz.
I think we did, yeah.
Some stuff. But what's happened since then is that we have continued some of the online groups because people really were drawn to them. And some of the more introverted members really showed up regularly to the Zoom things, where getting out of the house and going someplace in person is a barrier. And for people who have a transportation barrier, it's a godsend to have both of those. So we're trying to do both right now.
So many groups are doing that. So many groups like yours are picking up that the technology is good, and many programs that I'm involved in are hybrid. You can come in person, or you can stay at home and watch it on
We're
Zoom.
doing that too. Our art class, our art teacher really quickly got good at using 2 cameras and being able to do hybrid classes. So in person or online is fine.
It's hard. Can you 4 of you play in each being in different places? That would be tough.
That's a different animal because of the latency.
Sure.
And so you can't play in real time with another person without special technology. And the software was really bad at the beginning of the pandemic. They may have some by now, where you can play simultaneously in 2 different
I
places.
mean, I've seen lots of, on the commercial TV, I've seen lots of
Sure,
things like that.
but you know,
yeah.
when they were doing it on the late night shows, they weren't all playing at the same time. They pre-recorded using apps like Acapella, where you have 4
Okay.
slots and everybody drops into a
Yeah.
slot, but one person plays and then listens to that person on headphones and layers their track.
So you guys didn't meet on those Fridays, for how long? Because of the COVID?
Gosh,
You must have missed those
a
sessions.
long time,
At least a year or so.
At least
about
yeah.
a year, and we came back with masks.
Did you stay in touch through Zoom or other ways, or just?
We didn't lose track of you, Chris,
No.
during the pandemic. So, we definitely called people on the phone,
Yeah.
too. But we have a thing that we do regularly, and Chris doesn't attend this one, but that's just a tea time in the afternoon every Thursday, where it's just a get-together, staff and members, and sometimes board members and community people who are connected with us. Just people will drop in and hang out and
Nice.
chat just to stay connected.
All right, well, this has been terrific. I'm just going to close by, I'm going to ask each of you to, if you had one piece that you could play from now till eternity, what would it be? I know that's a hard, I didn't give you any prep time to think
No,
about it.
that's
but-
okay. I've been working, something that would take up the rest of my life, and I've been working on it recently, is a song by John Coltrane called Giant Steps.
Okay. And what about you, Chris? What's your piece?
Phase Dance. Pat Metheny's Phase Dance.
Whose is it?
Pat Metheny's Phase
Okay.
Dance.
What about you, Alan?
Oh, probably one of my
I was gonna
things,
say that. Probably one of
which
mine.
I'll say this about music. When I'm writing something, I'm in love with whatever song it is, and
Really?
so whatever I'm working on at the moment,
Okay.
I want to play from now to eternity. But when it reaches a certain point that it's about finished, I don't think
You
it's
drop
the
it.
best one
Oh.
anymore. I think the next one is.
So what's the one
So-
today? You
Well,
want one of
Riding the
your
Wave
songs?
is one that I'm working
Okay.
on, but.
All right. And what about you, Becca?
I have to give you 2, because if I were playing bass, I think I could work on the bass line to Something, which we did, the Beatles song Something. I really loved playing that when we did it recently. But if I were doing music, what I would want to do is be singing harmony with somebody else, because that's my favorite thing to do, is when we're playing guitar and singing harmony. So I like to do that.
So
I've
you
done a lot of
didn't
crowded
name a
house
piece. You
sing.
didn't name a song.
Oh, Something.
Oh, Something.
Yeah, that's a name.
Now the other question I have is, the jazz numbers you played are beautiful. They could really accommodate a singer. Have you ever thought of that? And you back-
I
All
sing a
of you-
couple, like
yeah.
Okay.
when we do All of Me in the room, I play
Because
that.
each
I
of
play
those
Black-
songs
I
has
sing-
beautiful lyrics.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
you
I sing
know.
Black Coffee when we do Black Coffee. We should work
Okay.
on that one some more.
All right. Well, this has been great. It's wonderful that you have an organization that helps you come together, that's creative, artistic. It helps people, helps the community. Thank you all for coming. It's great. And this from Artreach and to the community. We'll see you next time on Talk Back. Bye.